Hey there, welcome back. My name is Katie, and this is Louisiana Cooking and Living. And I'm so glad y'all have been patient with me, my faithful followers, as I've kind of been taking a little bit of a break with some wedding prep for some dear friends of ours. And I wanted to share some video of what we did and what everything ended up looking like, since you guys have been kind of patiently waiting for me to put some more videos out. So I'm gonna take you along on a little bit of my cake prep. We did a big grazing table. We did all the food. My husband smoked the brisket, and let's see, we did a grilled chicken pasta, salad, rolls, butter, all the fixings with that. So we did the grazing table, all the food, and then 3 different cakes. We did a chocolate cake for the groom's cake. We did a typical almond flavoring for the wedding cake, and then a red velvet cake for some extra sheet cake to cut alongside of everything. So I'm gonna take you kind of along, show you what we did, and here we go, I guess. So you can see here, this is a smoker we borrowed from a friend of ours. We have 4 briskets in this one and 4 in ours. And we only season our briskets with salt and pepper. And we let them smoke for about 18 to 20 hours. So the first cake we are going to ice right now is going to be our red velvet cake that is for just cutting of extra cake. It is a 2-layer sheet cake. I went on ice to center and wrapped it up the night before so that I had room to store all my cakes. And it's just a vanilla buttercream icing that we are going to be icing this cake with. And one of her colors for the wedding was gold, so we have that on a gold base there. And we're just going to go ahead and pile high some of that buttercream icing here so that we can easily ice our cake. So here we're going to use this offset spatula. I have 2 different sizes, and so for this bigger cake, we're going to be using this bigger offset spatula and just get this all smoothed out and nice and neat. And I have that cake smoothed out, and now we're going to do some piping on it. So I have these disposable piping bags. I like to cut the tip off and then put the first part of what's called a coupler in there, coupler. Slide that in, kind of measure, make sure we have it at the right size, trim a little bit more if we need to. And then we can apply our icing tip and then screw on the part that holds it into place. This first icing tip I'm going to use is a, let's see, it does shells or rosettes. I'm not sure the number of it, but that's for piping those 2 styles of icing. So I fold down the edges of my bag here just to make it easier and cleaner to fill my bag. So we're going to fill it with that same icing. Having my hand up inside that folded bag keeps my hand clean. We'll just pull the bag up around it and kind of shake it down in there and turn and squeeze it all down into the tip. So turn, squeeze. And now I'm just going to do some rosettes, just various sizes randomly around the borders of this cake. If you notice, every time I squeeze a rosette out, I turn my bag a little tighter to get that icing to go down into the tip of my bag. And now we're going to do a little shell border with that same tip along the bottom edge. I know you can't see it from this angle, but I do turn the cake and do it from a different angle. Here we go. Refilled my bag, and every time I do one, I do a little twist, squeeze it down a little further, and keep piping on. And with the shell mortar, we're just going up and down, up and down. So we got that all the way around the cake, and now I'm going to change my tip out. And this time we're going to use what's called an open shell tip, open star tip, sorry. That's it, open star tip is what this one is. And we're going to do some random little flowers on top to fill in the gaps of the other rosettes we have done. Got that bag filled back up, giving it some turns, and now we'll just fill in the gaps. Her colors for the wedding were black, champagne, gold, and anything sparkly, she told me. So once we finish with our rosettes, we are going to be adding gold sprinkles to the top of this cake. And I don't mean, I guess, sprinkles like sugar sprinkles. They are like big gold balls that we'll be adding to the top. And again, this is just buttercream icing here that we're using. Filling in with some smaller ones. And here's those balls we're just going to put on top. Any of the tools I'm using here, I will leave those linked in the description box, just so you can kind of see what I ended up using. If you're interested in decorating cakes for birthday parties or anniversaries or weddings or whatever it is that you want to make a decorative cake for your friends and family and loved ones. All right, next we're going to work on our groom's cake, and this is a chocolate cake. And I have made this cake for you in the past, and at the end of the video I will leave a link. Here I am measuring my cardboard circle to make sure I'm using the right size for my cake, and I realized I have the wrong one. But I will leave this recipe linked at the very end of the video. And I found my right circle I need there, and we're going to unwrap our chocolate cake. This cake has not only is it chocolate cake, it's got chocolate pudding in it, and it's got melted chocolate chips, and then it also has chocolate chunks. So this is a chocolate forward cake, and we will be decorating the top of this cake with chopped up Reese's peanut butter cups. I have made this cake numerous times for different groom's cakes, for different birthday cakes, for many people request this cake all the time. Let's see if you can notice that all the chocolate chunks that are in this cake. So we're going to go ahead and get our layers filled. This is 2-tier, and there's 3 layers in each tier. So this is a pretty tall cake. And I'm not going to put much icing in the middle, because when you do a crumb coat on the outside and then a final smooth coat, you kind of get quite a bit of icing on the outside of the cake. So I like to just do a thin layer in between my cake layers. Now that tool that's to the side that has a purple stripe down the middle is very good for making a smooth outside icing layer. So I will definitely leave that linked in the description box. I really like using that tool to get smooth edges. Just making sure everybody gets equal portions of that yummy chocolate buttercream icing. All right, here's our next layer going on. A lot of people like to freeze their cake layers, and I have never done that. And so because I have never done it and practiced, I'm kind of scared to do it for something like a wedding. And so these cake layers I baked the day before, let them cool completely, and then wrap them in this aluminum foil that you can see, and they are perfectly moist and soft, and they ice perfectly. I know the cold cakes when they're frozen can make it easier to ice them, but I have never had issues icing my cakes. So this is just the way I've done it. Just making sure they're straight. And we'll fill this with some more chocolate icing, buttercream icing. This buttercream icing always reminds me of those cookies called EL fudge. They're like the little, I guess they're Keebler maybe. They look like elves, and they're like a yellow butter cookie with chocolate filling. That's what this icing always reminds me of. It takes me back to my childhood. But maybe just a little fancier, because we do add a little salt to that buttercream icing. Just brings out that yummy chocolate flavor. All right, just getting this one filled up, and then we'll put our third layer on top. I haven't ever done this one, I think 3 layers, and I'm not sure that I show it, but we do use skewers. I do put 3 skewers in this cake that would be concealed by the next layer going on top to give support for the next layer. And what I do is I push the skewer down in and then clip it right at the top of the cake, so it doesn't show, but it just gives that a little bit extra support to support the top tier going on. There's that yummy, rich chocolate third layer going on top. And as you can see, I was just kind of adjusting those layers, those skewers in there. I've seen people use boba tea straws also, cut those off, but it helps to keep your cake from sliding also. Nice and tall. All right, well, let's get some icing on the outside of this cake. And I'm going to show you how I'm going to get my smooth icing on the outside once I get my crumb coat on. A crumb coat is your first layer of icing that's a very thin layer, and it locks in the crumbs to your cake. So then when you do your final smooth layer, you don't have crumbs pulling from the cake into your icing. So we're just getting that crumb coat on here. And this one, you can see I'm using my smaller offset spatula just because my cake is a little smaller here. I like to use them two interchangeably depending on what size cake I'm icing and working on. At this point, I'm just trying to get all the icing on there, and then I will work on getting it to be a smooth layer. You can see that icing is substantial. It doesn't just kind of melt onto the cake. It's pretty firm. And all it is butter that you whip until it's light and fluffy for almost 20 minutes. And then powdered sugar, salt. I do vanilla for the vanilla buttercream, and I do almond for the almond extract. Okay, this is where we're going to make our icing smooth. I take a little bit of that icing and I melt it in the microwave for about 10 seconds, and then I add it to the rest of my icing, and it just softens it enough. that it goes on much smoother, and then it firms back up to room temperature hardness of butter, basically. So this is that little hack, I guess, for getting that smooth icing. I found somebody online that did this, and I've tried it a few times, and it works great. So just, you put a little bit in the microwave for about 10 seconds, and then mix it in to your other buttercream to loosen it up. Once you get on the cake here, go back to my icing, and then so for the chocolate, I do the butter, the powdered sugar, a little bit of salt, and cocoa powder. I don't put the vanilla in my chocolate buttercream. So, and here is that tool. We're going to hold that tool at a 45-degree angle, reach around the back of the cake, and pull towards you from both hands. So pull your tool towards you, and then pull your hand that's turning your cake towards you. And you do have to do this numerous times. I scrape off the excess, as you can see right here, and then we will fill in the gaps on the cake where it had missed when it's smooth. You'll see little gaps in your icing, and that tells you where you need to put extra icing on there, and then re-smooth it until you have a perfectly smooth cake. Now, I did find, as I was doing more and more layers of this, that if you reach all the way around the back of the cake and do one complete pull all the way around at one time and not stop, it gives you a smoother cake and doesn't have a line where you continually stop. So instead of pulling right there from the side, reach all the way around the back of the cake. And of course, it helps to have a turntable. And then pull all that extra on top of the cake and make it smooth. Now, she wanted a chocolate drizzle around the edge of the cake, and I was going to make a chocolate ganache and do that. And then I saw this item at Hobby Lobby, which I'm about to show you, that you put in the microwave and you heat it for 30 seconds. And in my mind, it's basically like magic shell that you put on ice cream. So you take the top off, you put it in the microwave for 30 seconds, and it's does a little drizzle drip around the edge of the cake. So I'll put the top back on there and give that a squeeze. Well, shake it up first, and then we'll give it a squeeze. It said 30 seconds, but I think I ended up doing 30 seconds twice to get it melty. Do a little test drip here on the side, just before I put it on the cake. I guess that's when I realized it didn't melt all the way. Okay, here we go. And it really was really easy just to squeeze it, and it just, as I went around the cake, I would do a little bit more pressure to have the drip, and then a little bit lighter pressure to not drip. So like I said, this is 3 layers on this tier, and then I will do another tier on top that has 3 layers. This is a 10-inch circle, and the next one was an 8-inch, I think is what they were. And then I chopped Reese's peanut butter cups to go on the top and around the edges. And I will show you the final cake at the actual reception. This product was very easy to work with. And there's the pretty drips going down the side of the cake. All right, this is one of the layers of the actual wedding cake, and I have this tool that gives me a template for my my swags on there. She wanted a ruffle swag on the cake. And so I'm just going to go around the whole cake and mark my tool template on there to give me an idea of where to do my swags. So this cake was a 12-inch, 2 layers, a 9-inch with 2 layers, and a 6-inch top they were going to keep for their 1-year anniversary, also 2 layers. And it is the almond flavored cake and almond buttercream, no filling in this cake. And now we're going to use a leaf tip. We're just going to kind of zigzag it along that little swag template mark we made, and makes our little ruffle swag. And again, I will show you the final cake at the reception. We did the swags, and then we'll end up doing a I'm not sure what the tip is called, but it's just a little circle that you would make like a dot icing design with. But we'll do a swag with that, and then we're going to do a fleur-de-lis at the top of the swags with a shell tip, and then I did the shell border at the bottom too, which I didn't do those shell borders until we got to the location because they would have messed up in transport. Well, and layering the cakes together. So we'll get the swag finished, and then we will add the rest of our design. I was super happy with these cakes. I tell my clients that my cakes aren't beautiful. I am not a professional cake decorator, but I can pretty much guarantee they're going to taste amazing. I think I've actually made this almond wedding or the almond cake for you guys before, and if I did, I will leave that linked at the end of this video also. So here we'll change our tip out, and we're just going to do that fine little line and pipe it around. It's kind of hard to tell in the video. And I'll show you, we all make mistakes, and I just use this toothpick here to kind of pick that up, because the actual cake, once you've iced it, it kind of crusts over a little bit, so it's easy to pick up your mistakes right like that, or to smooth them into the cake you already have iced. So we'll just pull that off, and then we'll go ahead and pipe again. And I made a mistake again, and here we are trying to fix that. It didn't pull off, so we're going to smooth it in. Let's just start all over again with this one. This is where it gets kind of tedious, and you can get a little frustrated if you're in a hurry. My time was going pretty good this evening. I usually end up doing cakes until 1 or 2 in the morning, but I was actually done by 8:30 this evening. I was really surprised at how quickly I was able to get them done. I say quickly, I started around 10 in the morning to do all 3 cakes, but we got them done. This line droop was very tedious because you have to give just enough pressure without touching the cake, but if you pull it too hard, it'll break the line of icing like that. Just dropped it. But we'll just smooth it right on out again and start it over. And here we are making those fleur-de-lis at the top of each of those swags. Oh, that's a lot of icing. Had a little bit too much icing there. Just pull it right off. And you can usually correct your piping if you're careful the way you do it. Just go up in the middle and then off to each side. I don't know how to do these. And then I use that same shell tip to do the shell border on the cake also.
They all look so bad. I mean, they all look very
different. I did it around the top and around the bottom. All right, these are those briskets that came off the smoker. Just showing you how soft and juicy they are here. We ended up doing 8 total briskets. This wedding had around 275 guests. And this is the grazing table we did with lots of fruits and vegetables and crackers and dips. And this chafing dish has a crab dip in the middle. And this, we have different like pretzels and nuts. There's some dragon fruit and pomegranates and just all kinds of things. Some hummus dip, brie cheese, different cheeses, meats. And y'all, this went so fast. I didn't realize how quickly we would have to replenish this table. Dried fruit. We even had things for the children. This is where our beverage station was, and they wanted coffee and tea and a hot chocolate bar. So that's our hot chocolate with toppings there. And here is our buffet line with that brisket that was smoked. And that's the brisket we smoked from 10 a.m. to 7 a.m. the next day. So quite a long smoke on that. And this is our grilled chicken pasta, our salad, butter, and rolls. And here are those cakes. That's just that sheet cake for cutting. Here is our wedding cake, almond flavor. And then here is that chocolate cake with the Reese's peanut butter cups. So that's what we've been up to for the last couple of weeks, and why I've been kind of MIA. And I'm super excited. We're moving on to our next event in life, which will be Thanksgiving. It's just 2.5 weeks away. Tomorrow morning it's supposed to be in the 30s in a few days this week, and so I'm excited. And so what I thought I'd bring to you this week is some Thanksgiving dinner ideas. We're going to be doing some Thanksgiving sides, just different takes on the usual, and also the same with some desserts. And then we will also do a video on our turkey and dressing, and then also what we can do with some of those leftovers. So in the meantime, I'll pop some videos up here where you can watch that chocolate cake that I made. I have made that cake recipe with you before. It is delicious. I have made that cake 4 times for a groom's cake. People love it. So if you have not tried that chocolate cake recipe out, I will leave that video here for you to check that video out. And we'll see you next time. Thanks for watching.